Have you ever felt that something is fundamentally wrong with the world? Not just the corruption, the wars, or the daily struggles, but something deeper. A splinter in your mind, a quiet, nagging suspicion that reality itself feels slightly off. Like a stage set that hasn't been painted quite right, or a computer program running with a glitch. You look at the violence in nature, the inevitability of decay, and the randomness of suffering, and you ask yourself, if a perfect, loving God created this universe, why does it look so much like a mistake? For thousands of years, we have been told that existence is a gift. We are told that the natural world is a masterpiece of design, created by a benevolent architect who called it good. But what if that story is a lie? What if the feeling of alienation you carry isn't a psychological defect, but a memory? A memory of a place you actually belong to, a place far beyond this physical realm. There is a suppressed narrative of human history, a dangerous idea that was hunted down, burned, and buried in the sands of time. It is the ancient philosophy known as Gnosticism, and its central premise is terrifyingly simple. You are not a citizen of this universe. You are a prisoner of it. To understand this rebellion against reality, we must travel back to a moment of accidental discovery that changed history forever. The year is 9045. The location is the scorched cliffs of Upper Egypt, near the town of Nag Hammadi. A local peasant named Muhammad Ali al-Saman is digging for fertilizer near a massive boulder. His shovel strikes something solid. It isn't a rock, it is a large red earthenware jar, sealed with bitumen. He hesitates to break it open. He fears it might contain a jinn, a malevolent spirit, but hope for gold overcomes his fear of the supernatural. He smashes the jar. There is no gold inside, only a cloud of golden dust and 13 leather-bound papyrus books. Disappointed, he carries them home, unaware that he is holding the most explosive theological time bomb in history. His mother burns some of the pages in their clay oven to bake bread. But what survives the Nag Hammadi library resurrects the voices of the Gnostics, voices that had been silenced for 16 centuries. These texts reveal a cosmology that turns the standard view of Genesis upside down. In the Gnostic view, the entity that created this physical universe is not the ultimate God. The true God, the ineffable one, is a being of pure light, abstract and untouched by matter, existing in a realm of silence and perfection, called the pleroma. This true God did not create the chaos of atoms, gravity, and flesh. So, who did? The Gnostics point to a figure they call the Demiurge. In texts like the Apocryphon of John, this being is described as a grotesque abomination, a lion-faced serpent with eyes of flashing fire. His name is Yaldabaoth. He is the child of a mistake, born from a divine entity named Sophia, or Wisdom, who tried to create without a partner. Ashamed of her deformed offspring, she cast him out of the realm of light into a shadow void. Alone in the darkness, Yaldabaoth went mad. He possessed great power but no wisdom. He began to build. He forged the planets, the stars, the earth, and the physical laws that bind them. He looked around at his mechanical, heavy creation and saw no other beings. In his arrogance and ignorance, he declared, "I am God, and there is no other God beside me." This is the great Gnostic twist. They argue that the God spoken of in the Old Testament, the jealous, angry, tribal deity, who demands blood sacrifices, commands wars, and punishes with floods, is actually this Demiurge. He is not the father of truth, but a blind, insane craftsman who believes he is the supreme ruler, and we are living in his kingdom. This perspective radically shifts how we view the problem of suffering. If the world was created by a flawed, ignorant lesser God, then the flaws of the world make perfect sense. Cancer, natural disasters, predation, the food chain where life must consume life to survive, these aren't mysterious parts of a divine plan we just can't understand. They are the systemic errors of a bad architect. They are the bugs in the code. This brings us to the eerie parallel between these ancient scrolls and modern technology. Today, Silicon Valley billionaires and quantum physicists seriously debate simulation theory the idea that our universe is actually a computer simulation running on a post-human server. They talk about pixelation at the quantum level, the limits of the speed of light acting as a processor speed limit, and the mathematical improbability of our existence. The Gnostics were the original simulation theorists. They didn't use words like code or matrix, but they described the same system. They taught that the material world is a copy of a copy, a shadow of the true reality. They believed the Demiurge created Archons, rulers, or authorities, to maintain the system. These Archons are like the firewall agents or the prison guards of our reality. They govern the planets and the forces of nature, ensuring that human souls remain distracted, confused, and attached to the material world. But why keep us here? What is the point of the prison? According to the Gnostics, the Demiurge is jealous. When he created the first human, he couldn't breathe true life into it. He could only make a biological machine. But his mother, Sophia, seeing the trapped potential, tricked the Demiurge. She breathed the spark of the true divine light into humanity. This is the secret. This is why you feel like you don't belong. You carry a fragment of the true God, a spark of the pleroma, trapped inside a biological spacesuit designed by a madman. The Demiurge wants to keep you here because that spark gives his dead world life. We are the batteries powering this simulation. The entire structure of human society, according to this view, is designed to keep you asleep. The endless cycle of desire and consumption, the fear of death, the obsession with status, the religious dogmas that demand blind obedience, these are all tools of the Archons. They are designed to make you forget where you came from. They want you to identify with your body, with your name, with your job, so that when you die, you will simply recycle back into the system, wiped of your memory, to serve another sentence. This is where the concept of Gnosis comes in. Gnosis is the Greek word for knowledge, but not the kind of knowledge you get from a book or a degree. It is intuitive, experiential knowledge. It is the moment of waking up. In the Gnostic narrative, the Garden of Eden story is retold with a shocking reversal. If the Creator is a tyrant keeping Adam and Eve in ignorance, then the serpent is not the villain. The serpent is the liberator. The serpent is the messenger of the true light, coming to tell the prisoners, "Eat from the tree of knowledge. Your eyes will be opened. You will realize you are greater than the God who made this cage." To the Gnostics, the fall of man was actually a step upward. It was the beginning of consciousness, the first act of rebellion against a system built on blind obedience. But this rebellion is dangerous. History shows us that those who seek Gnosis are often persecuted. The early Christian church, as a consolidated power, worked tirelessly to destroy the Gnostic sects. They branded them as heretics. Bishops like Irenaeus wrote massive treatises attacking them. The Gnostics were solitary, anti-authoritarian, and skeptical of hierarchies. They didn't need priests or bishops to mediate their connection to the divine, because they believed the divine was already inside them. A religion based on inner knowing is a threat to any institution based on external control. So the texts were burned, the Gnostics were scattered. The Demiurge's narrative won. We spent the next 2,000 years building civilizations based on the idea that the material world is the only thing that matters, or that we must appease a judgmental creator to earn a place in heaven. However, the Gnostic idea never truly died. It went underground. It surfaced in the poetry of the Romantics, in the alchemy of the Middle Ages, in the writings of Carl Jung, and in the science fiction of the 20th century. You see it in The Matrix, The Truman Show, and Blade Runner. We are obsessed with these stories because they resonate with that deep ancestral suspicion that reality is a facade. But if this is a prison, how do we escape? The Gnostics didn't believe in salvation through faith or good works. You couldn't buy your way out, and you couldn't pray your way out to the very God who imprisoned you. Escape was only possible through remembrance. The goal of life, in this dark philosophy, is to cultivate the divine spark within, to disconnect from the noise of the material world, and to realize your true nature. It is a path of extreme psychological solitude. It demands that you look at the institutions, the values, and even the physical needs of your body, and say, "This is not me." It requires a kind of detachment that can feel cold or terrifying. If the world is a trap, then loving the world is the bait. This worldview is undeniably bleak. It paints nature not as a mother, but as a cage. It suggests that the beauty of a sunset or the joy of physical love are merely holograms designed to keep us docile. It validates the deepest depressions of the human psyche, suggesting that the feeling of emptiness is actually a sign of spiritual health, a sign that the anesthesia is wearing off. Yet, there is a strange hope in it. If the Gnostics are right, then you are not a sinner. You are not a biological accident. You are a king in exile. The suffering you feel is not a punishment. It is a symptom of your displacement. The alienation is proof of your divinity. As we look at the modern world, with its increasing digitalization, where we spend more time looking at screens than at each other, the Gnostic warning feels more relevant than ever. We are building our own layers of simulation on top of the Demiurge's simulation. We are creating virtual worlds, avatars and artificial intelligences, playing the role of lesser gods ourselves. Are we imitating the very madness that trapped us? Perhaps the Gnostic trap isn't just about ancient myths or theology. Perhaps it is a metaphor for the human condition. We are creatures of infinite imagination, trapped in finite bodies, beings of eternity trapped in time. We are always reaching for something we cannot touch, remembering a home we cannot find on any map. The Nag Hammadi library was buried in a jar for 1600 years, waiting for us. Now that the seal is broken, we have to decide what to do with this forbidden knowledge. Do we dismiss it as the paranoid fantasy of ancient mystics? Or do we dare to entertain the possibility that they were the first ones to see the bars of the cage? The next time you find yourself staring into the dark, feeling that inexplicable longing for something else, something more, pay attention. That isn't sadness. That is the signal. That is the static of the universe clearing for just a brief second. The question is not whether the world is a prison. The question is, do you actually want to leave? Or have you grown to love the walls? Because the door isn't locked. It never was. You just have to remember who you are and walk through. The nightmare only persists as long as you believe it is real. The moment you wake up, the monsters disappear. But waking up is the hardest thing you will ever do.